Deepfakes are back in the news, baby! I did a video on this topic before, a few years back, when Jordan Peterson threatened legal action against a company that was using technology to replicate his voice. But the tech has advanced wildly since then, with new problems coming along with it. Streamer Atrioc apologizes after watching pokimane deepfakes. Earlier today, a streamer called Atrioc was exposed after a clip went viral due to the discovery of a certain tab on his PC. The tab included the name of a website that features inappropriate deepfake images and videos of other popular streamers such as Pokimane and HYUK. After a brief period of silence, Atrioc has now confirmed these claims and has apologized for what he says was a case of morbid curiosity. Well, we don't gotta take this article's word for it. Let's roll the clip.
I guess what I want to say is, so I already feel I'm deeply fucking embarrassed about this. I'm deeply fucking, I'm embarrassed. I'm angry at myself. I just feel so fucking stupid.
Dude, look at his wife in the background. She's not sad or afraid her husband's gonna be cancelled or something. She's angry. Apparently Atrioc and his wife are personal friends of Pokimane and Maya. I don't fucking know. I don't know who any of these big-time LA streamers are or any of their connections. Apparently he ran a business with a boyfriend of one of them or something. The point is that they're all friends, they all run in the same circle, and his wife is pissed. Think about it. Imagine if your wife discovered you had been jacking off to AI-generated porn of your shared friend group. What a weird situation.
I've done a lot on the stream to create a pattern of behavior where I really want, especially women on Twitch, to feel safer. We call fucking booba spam cringe. We don't do that there. I've never made a fucking weird, I don't know, seat sniffing joke. I've never done anything like that. I've never done anything like that on the stream. And we don't tolerate any sex behavior in the chat. We ban it on site. And I've done this consistently over and over and over.
This is the difference between people who allow edgy jokes and people who don't. I don't care about booba jokes or seat-sniffing jokes, and you're also going to find that I don't really have skeletons in my closet. This is prime repressor behavior.
I'm sorry. I'm just fucking sorry. I don't support this stuff. I don't believe this stuff. I'm not a fucking advocate in any way. I regret it. I would never do it as long as I live. As long as I live, I'll never do anything like this again.
This is a point that I brought up in my video on the r/anti-work sexual abuser, the difference between theory and reality. It's very easy to say you don't do a thing and you're not for a thing after you've already done it. Actions speak louder than words. Practice is more important than theory. Pokimane's response was pretty simple. Stop sexualizing people without their consent. That's it. That's the tweet. Beyond this, I figure she'll just ignore the situation. Pokimane's got doing good PR down to a science. HYUK's response is more personal, talking about how she was raped in 2018, how she's never done any sort of sexual content online, and how the aftermath of the whole situation feels a lot like the aftermath of her 2018 experience. It turns out that Cutie Cinderella was also another person deepfaked on that website by Atrioc, even though most articles aren't bringing her up, and she had quite a bit to say about it too.
Fuck the fucking internet. Fuck the constant exploitation and objectification of women. It's exhausting. Fuck Atrioc for showing it to thousands of people. Fuck the people DMing me pictures of myself from that website. Fuck you all. If you are able to look at women who are not selling themselves or benefiting off of being seen sexually, they're not benefiting, they're not selling it, they're not platforming it themselves. If you are able to look at that, you are the problem. You see women as an object. You should not be okay doing that. And it should not be a part of my job to have to pay money to get this stuff taken down. It should not be part of my job to be harassed, to see pictures of me nude spread around. It should not be something that is found on the internet. It shouldn't be. That shouldn't be a part of my job. And the fact that it is exhausting. And the person that made that website, I'm going to fucking sue you.
Now, I don't know if she's going to actually be able to sue the website. I don't know what the legality is regarding deepfakes. Because it's not really the girl, it's somebody else, with the girl's face AI generated onto the body. I'm sure this is yet another instance where lawmakers are falling behind technology. But to be honest, the legal conversation isn't all that interesting. What's more interesting is, are deepfakes moral? Intuitively, they don't feel moral. There's something wrong there, even if it feels a bit less than, say, revenge porn. But why is that? What's at the bottom of that knee-jerk feeling? Let's run down some possibilities. Is it just the fact that Atrioc is friends with Pokimane and HYUK and Cutie Cinderella? I mean, that certainly makes it more weird. You're betraying a friendship for sure. Is it still immoral if you're not related to the people at all? Like, if you or I, people who don't know any of these e-girls at all, if we looked at their deepfakes, is that bad? It feels kind of bad, but not as bad as their friend doing it. Certainly not as bad if we keep it a secret rather than sharing them. It also feels like it's worse if we're actually masturbating to them rather than looking at them out of a sense of morbid curiosity. And to be clear, I have seen at least the Pokimane deepfakes. I didn't find them appealing, only strange. Pokimane, Mayahiga, and Cutie Cinderella are all attractive women on the internet, but it's not like they do hypersexualized thirst trap content like Amaranth or Denims or the OK Boomer girl. Those women know specifically what they're doing. They're attracting simps by flaunting their sexuality. They are openly, publicly sexual in a way that the previous set of e-girls were not, even though they're not doing open pornography on Pornhub or something. Considering that these girls are specifically out there marketing their attractiveness as their prime asset while still not showing it all on camera, is it immoral to look at the deepfakes of them instead? My intuition tells me again, if it is, it's a lot less immoral because they're already putting themselves out there in that manner. They have to know their young male audience is already jacking off to pictures of them or streams of them. Is a deepfake really all that different from them imagining them having sex? I mean, yeah, it kind of is, because it's that imagined scene made real, at least real enough to possibly share it around. But again, it's not like it's the body of the actual girl in question. And then you think, what about actual porn actresses? Like right now, you can go watch a video of Mia Khalifa doing basically whatever you want over on Pornhub. Is it immoral to deepfake Mia Khalifa? At that point, the answer seems to be no. You can already see her doing that stuff herself. But even if it's not immoral, it's certainly weird, isn't it? What's the source of the weirdness? I mean, the friendship angle is a possible source of the weirdness, like with Atrioc and his deepfaked friends. Personally, I know like 6 people who have all done real porn, not deepfaked, including 2 girls I knew in school. And again, out of curiosity, I've looked at their porn. It was definitely strange to watch. I couldn't really enjoy it. But presumably, none of us know Mia Khalifa personally. So why does it feel a little bit odd to deepfake her face onto a different porn star's body when she already does porn? All of these incongruencies are pointing at something we haven't uncovered yet. When you look at a Pokimane deepfake, it's not like you're actually seeing Pokimane naked. You're seeing a different woman with Pokimane's face put on top of it. It's just a more sophisticated version of taking a picture of a naked girl and lazily photoshopping somebody else's head on top. Does the immorality stem from the sophistication of the deepfake, such that it's done well enough you don't actually know it's fake anymore? Well, that doesn't sound right either, because Atrioc literally ordered these images from a deepfake website. Torrents of deepfakes online are labeled as deepfakes. If you know it's a deepfake, then you know it's not real. It's not like the Kardashian blowjob leak, where it was actually a real image and everyone knew it. Nobody's getting fooled when they go to egirldeepfakes.com. Some of you might be old enough to remember Sarah Palin's rise to prominence in 2008 as John McCain's running mate against Obama. Even though this happened 15 years ago, you could still find crude sexual photoshops of her. Nobody on the left complained back then, by the way. And there were even Sarah Palin lookalikes doing full porn shoots acting as Sarah Palin. Was that immoral? Okay, even if you think that porn itself is immoral, was it any extra immoral because they were taking on the persona of a real person? In this case, I don't think so. If anything, it just seems funny, like it's a joke. When Rule 34 of Egoraptor and JonTron was made during the height of Game Grumps, they also took it as a joke when they saw it. Okay, so what if you had a twin, and that twin did porn? Would you feel violated? Probably not, because the twin's their own person. For example, I don't know if you know this, but Egoraptor's wife, Mortimer, is a twin. If Mortimer's twin sister did porn, would the fans of Game Grumps consider that to be Mortimer porn? Would she feel violated and publicly humiliated, as if it were the same thing as Mortimer deepfake porn? Probably not, even though the accuracy of that porn to Mortimer's own body would likely be a lot closer than any deepfake. This leads me to believe that it's not about how accurate the deepfake is, how believable it is to the viewer that it might be the actual person. It's more about identity. We know that the porn star playing the role of Sarah Palin isn't actually Sarah Palin. We know that Mortimer's twin sister isn't actually Mortimer. These people have their own identities underneath the role that they're playing. But unless you recognize the specific porn that the deepfake is taken from, we don't know who's underneath Pokimane's face. There's a depersonalizing aspect at play. While actors and twins only adopt an identity temporarily, deepfakes are simulations of an identity. If I built a perfectly accurate synthetic robot that looks exactly like Pokimane, and then had the robot do Pokimane porn, would that be as violating as Pokimane deepfakes? The answer intuitively seems to be yes, because there's no underlying identity there, showing to the viewer that the whole thing's just an act. In fact, the whole thing is just the simulated, stolen identity of Pokimane. We view identity in this way because identity is not only contained in the self, but it exists in the minds of others. A lesson you really should have learned decades ago from Evangelion. Deepfakes seem to be immoral, not because people might think you're having sex on camera when you really didn't, but because it's a hijacking of your identity in a way that is wholly out of your control, not based on your self-presentation or on the quality of your behaviors, but simply on the whims of another person. It's kind of like when you're not a slut, but somebody who hates you spreads the rumor that you are a slut, and then you feel awful when the rumor gets back to you, because it's not actually based on who you are. Though with deepfakes it's a lot more serious, obviously. By the way, the fact that deepfakes bother people so much, and that the whole thing seems to be rooted in identity, is pretty much the final nail in the coffin for the self-identification crowd. If you truly could self-ID, if you alone had sovereign dominion over your identity, a deepfake wouldn't threaten you. But that's not how the world works. Our identity is only partially within us. It's also partially within the minds of other people, based on their observation of your presentation and behaviors. A deepfake is violating because it's out of your control. There wasn't anything you could have done differently to prevent it. But for that to be true, it means that your self-ID actually doesn't matter all that much on its own. Here's an example, and I don't even have to dive into the trans question or the deepfake question to get my point across. I have old 4chan nudes of Nanners from back before she was a VTuber, back before she was a woke scold, back when she was an 18-year-old edgelord posting tits on B. She's made it very known multiple times that she disavows her old past and regrets putting those nudes out there. Am I under any moral obligation to delete them? I'm not sure. The consent of the present doesn't eliminate the consent of the past. She still did those things, she was still that person. That's still part of her identity, even if she doesn't like it now. Treating that identity like it once existed because it did isn't immoral, even if she currently finds it uncomfortable. I talked yesterday about the constant interconnectedness of the left. I guess another way in which they're hypocritical is when they want to shed their connections to their past self. I think this whole conversation revolves not around creating realistic porn of an e-girl who wouldn't have done porn otherwise, but instead around identity insecurity. And that's not an insult. Being insecure about your identity is pretty reasonable. This topic hooks into the larger AI conversation we're having right now, where both artists and the consumers of art are getting weird about AI producing art that is actually competent, where people are talking to chatbots that are actually able to have somewhat in-depth conversations. We are well past the days of 4chan turning Tay into a neo-Nazi for lulz. Imagine the Cockshottian AI socialist future, where central planning is actually possible and efficient because hyper-intelligent AI has harvested all data about every single human's market preferences and can now efficiently allocate resources to each person based on their desires. In that world, would you even have a sense of self anymore? No more privacy, no more independence or individual ownership? Would a deepfake even matter? The objection to deepfakes here is based in privacy and individualism, two things that political extremists are not so fond of. That cockshot future, where an AI is at the head of civilization, implements a command economy, collectivizes all property, and promotes constant hedonistic behavior to pass the time, is presented in the kind of incredible, kind of underwhelming 2020 TV adaptation of Brave New World. In this interpretation of Huxley's most famous story, a one-world government is controlled by a computer program called Indra, which directs all economic activity for what it determines is everyone's benefit. Nobody has locks on their doors, and anybody can come into your place anytime they like. Everyone wears implants on their eye that allows them to mentally connect with any other person, see through their eyes, and experience what they're thinking, feeling, and doing. The concept of exclusivity in your property, in your relationships, in your thoughts is considered offensive. In this completely collectivized world, where privacy has been abolished, and everyone and everything is everybody's to enjoy, would a deepfake even matter? If you can just go out and fuck anyone anyway, and you always can because everyone always says yes all the time to anyone, then who cares about deepfakes? It's a TV show, not real life, I know, but I'm bringing it up for a specific reason. As our real world becomes more and more interconnected, as concepts like privacy and exclusivity are dismantled inch by inch by the 1-2 punch of progressive hedonism and socialist collectivization, the deepfake problem was always going to come up eventually. I mentioned earlier that 2 girls from my school ended up in porn after graduation. That was considered an exceptionally high number for someone who went to high school in the 2000s. What are those numbers like nowadays? It really does seem like the percentage of girls who get into some sort of lewd industry is way higher than it was a decade or two ago. It's probably not as many as the red pillars think. I remember on Fresh and Fit a little bit ago, one of those guys said that something like 40% of college girls are getting flown out to the Middle East to turn into Dubai porta potties.
A girl going in Kansas City is not getting flown out to Dubai.
Yes, she is, bro.
No.
Nigga, today.
You guys are wild.
I
You
guarantee
guys
somebody
are
get flown
wild.
tonight.
You're coping, man.
Hold on, I just want to hear, for the record,
Yeah.
for you 3 to answer this,
Uh-oh.
what percentage of college women do you think are being flown around the world to fuck? I want to
Very
hear
little.
from all
If
three
I
of
had
you.
to argue,
little.
I want to hear.
off of like probability wise, if I argue, maybe like 30, 40, 50.
Holy
Not at all.
shit.
You've got to be living in a whole other dimension to think this, dude. There's no fucking way it's that high. but the number of girls who hit 18 and immediately do some sort of porn, OnlyFans, thirst trapping on Instagram or Twitch or something has got to be higher than it's ever been, considering how easy to do and how culturally normalized that sort of thing has become. Even beyond porn, our culture has become way more sexually permissive at a rapid pace. Scott Pilgrim came out in the late 2000s, and at that time, a 24-year-old woman having 7 previous sexual partners was considered a comically large number. Nowadays, you'd be lucky to find a 24-year-old with that exact sexual history. By the way, I'm not casting a value judgment here. I'm not saying whether this is good or bad. I'm simply saying that it is. And the reason I'm describing it is because as the world moves more leftward, the very concept of privacy is becoming a thing of the past. As promiscuous sexuality becomes more culturally permissible, things that used to be kept private are now flaunted openly in the name of pride, far beyond gay or trans pride. As socialism moves more into the forefront, individualism is viewed as a relic of the past, as a part of liberalism that was once crazy and revolutionary, but now needs to be abolished for the collectivization to begin. It is no wonder that in this political environment, we are starting to see the dismantling of privacy itself. No private property, no private speech, no private thoughts, no private information, no private lives. From stuff like tracking or harvesting data, to cancel culture, to the expectation that you always be available to work even when off the clock, to central planning, to corporate ESG scores, to always on, always connected electronic devices, and yes, to sexual promiscuity. The thread that ties all of this stuff together is the abolishment of privacy. The fact that your average leftoid is pro some of these things and anti-others is a testament to how poorly thought out their everything should be connected ethic actually is. In this context, it's no wonder we're grappling with moral issues surrounding deepfakes. I have a feeling that within my lifetime, deepfakes of everyone will be normalized as just a new part of the next generation sexual morality after the Zoomers have hit middle age. Yeah, I know you probably clicked on this video looking for some laughs about Atrioc and the drama. Well, you should have known better. His story isn't actually that interesting. He's a retard who thought it was a good idea to special order deepfake porn of his streamer e-girlfriends, and then continued to be retarded because he didn't do that shit on a non-business computer, or at least fucking close the tabs before he went live. There's actually not much to it beyond that, though the clip of him saying that anybody could be scummy in private is pretty funny, all things considered.
But do remember that all the creators you watch online could be pieces of shit like this behind closed doors, but we are all forced to be good and play nice because we want to keep our jobs.
The real conversation here is the slow creeping move to abolish privacy itself. For something to be private, it has to be exclusive to only the people who have access to it. It has to be particular to only the people who are interested in it. It has to be gatekept. But inclusivity, universality, and interconnectedness are the values of the left, whether we're talking about the replaceability of cultures and populations, to the collectivization of all property, to the abolishment of both monogamy and gender. Everything to these people is fungible, and privacy is a value that stands in the way. That's why, despite the current drama, deepfakes are ultimately permissible within the leftist framework. Because once you arrive at their natural endpoint, it's just another naked woman among millions. Who cares? Inclusivity, universality, and interconnectedness all lead to replaceability, and replaceability leads to the idea that there's nothing special about you at all. To object to that, to say that your sexual activity shouldn't be inclusive or universal or collectivized, is to say that it should be private. You're an individual, not a random number among millions. Appealing to privacy here necessarily takes you outside of the leftist framework, at least philosophically, because you are demanding separation instead of connection, particularity over replaceability, and exclusive individuality over the inclusivity of the masses. The only solid moral objections to deepfakes are grounded in consent. Consent is grounded in privacy, and as long as the left wants to abolish privacy, they will always create an environment where deepfakes, along with a lot of other terrible sexual behaviors, is permissible. Their talk about valuing consent is simply paying lip service to a popular idea. If the consequentialist end is good enough, they have no problem violating consent. Your average left-leaning person doesn't understand this philosophy. They don't even mean to promote this stuff, I don't think. But hey, it wouldn't be the first time that some idiot believed that they could centrally plan all of society, and it backfired in their face with catastrophic consequences.